You have done it again. You were so close. Things were actually going well. The momentum was building. The results were showing up. The version of your life you have been working toward was starting to feel real. And then something happened. Maybe you stopped showing up. Maybe you picked a fight that didn't need to happen. Maybe you made a decision that blew the whole thing up. Maybe you just quietly faded out of the thing that was working and drifted back to old habits without even fully choosing to. And now you're sitting with that familiar feeling of being your own enemy. And you are calling yourself lazy, calling yourself weak, calling yourself someone who just cannot seem to follow through. But that is not what happened. What happened is much deeper than laziness, and understanding it is the only way to actually stop it. You did not self-sabotage because you are weak. You self-sabotage because a part of you does not believe you deserve what you were building. And that part of you is more powerful than your conscious goals, your vision boards, and your morning routines combined. Until you deal with that part, you will keep getting close and blowing it up. Different situation, same result, every single time. Here's how this works, and I need you to stay with me, because this is going to get uncomfortable. Every one of us has an identity, not just who we say we are, who we actually believe we are at a deep subconscious level. That belief was built over years from everything you experienced, everything you were told about yourself, and the people around you. And that identity has a set point, a level of success, love, and stability that feels normal to it. Familiar, safe. When your life drops below that set point, you feel motivated to climb back up. But when your life rises above that set point, above what feels familiar, your subconscious gets uncomfortable and works against you. Not because it wants you to fail, because it is trying to bring you back to what feels like home, back to what it knows. That is self-sabotage. It is not a character flaw. It is an identity protection mechanism, and it is working exactly as designed. The problem is that the identity it is protecting was built from old information, from things people said when you were young, from failures that got internalized as permanent truths, from watching the people around you and deciding their ceiling was yours too. Think about the patterns in your life. Is there a level you keep reaching and then falling back from? A version of yourself that shows up for a few weeks and then disappears? That is not coincidence. That is your set point, pulling you back. I went through this myself. I had a period where things were genuinely going well, better than they ever had. And instead of staying in it, I found a way to complicate everything, made decisions that made no sense looking back. Every time I got somewhere that felt further than I believed I deserved, I found a way back to familiar. My conscious mind wanted the success, but something underneath it did not trust it, and that something won every time. So what do you actually do about this? Because understanding it is one thing, changing it is another. And I want to be real with you about what this takes, because it is not a quick fix, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. The first thing is awareness, real awareness, not just intellectually understanding that self-sabotage is a thing, but actually catching yourself in the moment. Noticing when you're about to make a decision that does not serve you and asking honestly, is this a real decision, or is this my identity trying to pull me back to familiar? That question alone, asked consistently, starts to create a gap between the impulse and the action. And in that gap, you have a choice that you did not have before. The second thing is doing the identity work. And I mean actually doing it, not just consuming content about it. That means getting honest about what you actually believe about yourself at the deepest level. Not what you say you believe, not the affirmations you repeat. What do you actually feel you deserve? And when good things happen, do you feel like they are yours, or do you feel like they are temporary? When you imagine the life you say you want, does it feel real and available to you, or does it feel like something that happens to other people? Those feelings are data. They are showing you the identity you are actually operating from underneath all the conscious intention. Changing that identity requires repetition of new evidence. Every time you follow through when you wanted to quit, you are building a new case for who you are. Every time you stay in something that is working, instead of blowing it up, you are rewriting the story. Every time you receive something good and let yourself actually have it, instead of immediately undermining it, you are expanding your set point. It is slow work. It does not happen in a week or a month. But it is the only work that actually addresses the real problem. The third thing is radical honesty about your surroundings. Because sometimes the self-sabotage is not purely internal. Sometimes the environment you're in, the people you are around, the dynamics you're living inside, are actively keeping your set point low. People who knew you before you started growing sometimes need you to stay the same, not out of malice, because your growth disrupts the equilibrium of the relationship, and that is uncomfortable for them. And if you are deeply affected by the people around you, their discomfort with your growth can become your own. You start shrinking back, not just because of your own identity, but because of the identity the people around you have of you. This is real, and it is one of the most underrated causes of repeated self-sabotage in people who are genuinely trying to grow. Here is what I want you to take from this. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not someone who is fundamentally incapable of sustaining good things. You are someone who has been operating from an identity that was built from old experiences and beliefs that were never yours. And identities can be rebuilt, slowly, through evidence, through new experiences, through choosing differently when the pullback is strongest. That is the work. Not more discipline, not better habits, not a new system. The actual inner work of becoming someone who believes at the deepest level that the life they are building is one they deserve. The next time you feel the urge to blow something up that is working, to fade out of something that is going well, and to make a decision that your future self will look back on with confusion, pause. Ask yourself what is really happening. Not what the surface reason is, what is really happening. Because almost always underneath the surface reason is a version of you that got scared of how good things were getting. That is not weakness. That is human. But now you know what it is. And knowing is the beginning of choosing differently. Stop sabotaging the life you deserve. You have been doing it long enough. And I want to say something to the people who have read all of this and still feel resistant, who are thinking, yes, but my situation is different. My reasons are real. My sabotage is justified by what happened to me. I hear you, and I am not dismissing what happened to you. The experiences that built your identity were real. The pain that shaped your set point was real. Nobody is questioning that. But here is what I need you to sit with. The fact that it was real does not mean it has to be permanent. The fact that something happened to you does not mean it gets to keep happening through you for the rest of your life. At some point, the responsibility shifts. Not the blame, the responsibility. The blame for what shaped you may belong to circumstances, to other people, to experiences outside your control, but the responsibility for what you do with that shaping, that belongs entirely to you. And that is not a burden. That is the most powerful thing about being human. You're not fixed. You're not finished. You're not the sum of your worst moments or your most limiting beliefs about yourself. You are capable of deciding, starting right now, to be the kind of person who stays when things get good, who receives without immediately destroying, who builds without burning it down when the fear gets loud. That decision, made over and over again in the small moments nobody sees, is how the identity changes. That is how the set point rises. That is how you stop being your own worst enemy and start being the person who actually sees things through. You have sabotaged enough. It is time to stay. One last thing, because I think the most practical thing I can leave you with is not a mindset shift, but an actual instruction. Starting today, for the next 30 days, at every single time something good happens, I want you to let it land. Do not immediately minimize it. Do not immediately find the problem with it. Do not immediately tell yourself it is temporary, or that you got lucky, or that it is going to fall apart. Just let it land. Let yourself feel what it feels like to have something go right and to be someone who has things go right. Do that consistently and something starts to shift. Your nervous system starts to recognize good things as safe rather than suspicious. Your identity starts to expand to include a person who things work out for. Your set point starts to rise, not dramatically, not overnight, but it moves. And every millimeter it moves is a millimeter less distance your subconscious has to drag you back. That is the work. Small, quiet, consistent, and visible to everyone around you. The most important work you will ever do. Not the hustle, not the strategy, not the content plan. This, the inner work, do it. And do not ever stop doing it.